Welcome to the Professional Muslim Women Podcast, a place for working Muslim women to share their stories, struggles, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way in pursuit of their careers. I'm Dr. Kali Hussein.
And I'm Dr. Hani Ahmed. And in this podcast, we bring inspirational, trailblazing, successful, and fulfilled professional Muslim women to you.
Get ready to be inspired and learn how you can forge your own path as well. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to the Professional Muslim Women Podcast. It's Kali and Hani. Hi, Hani.
Hey, Kali. Hi, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Kali? How are you doing?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How's everything going with you?
Everything's going well. It's been a little bit busy on this side of things. I'm sure it's been busy for you too. I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while.
I know. We've both been on call straight for the past 2 weeks. So we've been going back and forth trying to get the next few sets of episodes together. And so we thought this would be a perfect time to start talking about work-life balance / work-life integration and how we try and balance everything out.
I feel like I'm still trying to figure it out.
I know. It's a tough topic, and there are multiple things written about time management and work-life balance. And the idea, a lot of times it seems that, just the terminology work-life balance, that there's some sort of, a magical balance that you can achieve where at all times you've got perfect amount of work and perfect amount of life, figured out.
Right. That's being perfectly balanced.
Yeah. But in reality, in our discussion today, I think we'll try and tease all that stuff out. I personally don't think there's a magical, perfect balance, and that, there are times when you're going to be, more active with work. And there are times when you're doing more life related things, and that, there's no such thing as having it all and having it all figured out all the time.
Yeah. Work-life balance was also a topic that was requested by our audience members. It is also a topic that is of huge interest right now in medicine, especially. So it seems like a good one to tackle. There's a lot of talk about avoiding burnout. And then there's a lot of talk about burnout, being a consequence of an imbalance between work and life. And it's like, how do you achieve, individually your work-life balance so you're A, not burning out, and B, you are able to not just like function and get through the day, but you're actually thriving and you're happy, with all of the different hats that we wear.
Right. Can you, Henny, define a little bit? I know we deal and discuss burnout a lot, in the medical field, but for those who are not discussing it in their field specifically, can you define what burnout means specifically?
Yeah. So the way I understand it, it's kind of a catch-all term for a number of ailments, which are mostly psychological. So it includes things like cynicism, feeling checked out, depressed, lack of sleep, lack of motivation, just lots of negative feelings, which arise as a consequence of being overworked or doing too much work. And it's a huge issue in medicine because of the residency training that we do, right? Like that's where a lot of people experience burnout because of the extraordinary amount of hours that you are expected to be in the hospital or on call or working, and the consequent, you neglect the rest of your life. So that leads to burnout.
Right. And to clarify it, so the number of hours that we talk about, we know it because, we've been through it, but to compare it for the people who are not familiar with it. So the maximum hours that were cut by the accreditation boards as the maximum was recently 80 hours a week.
Right.
Okay.
80 hours a week.
80 hours a week. So the regular people who work 8 hours a day work 40 hours a week. That's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Right. So in residency, the cap, because it used to be more than that, it used to be more than 80 hours a week that people were working. And there was a previous case that happened from, an error that was made in patient care. And the residency accreditation board came down and said, because this error is likely related to overwork and fatigue, we have to limit the number of hours that, human beings can function, right? So it's cut to 80 hours, which means a regular work week for a resident is twice what the average worker does.
Yeah. It wasn't unheard of for people to work 120 hours, right?
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
now it seems insane, but it's like,
I mean, the word resident came from the fact that, physicians in training lived in the hospital. They were
right.
residents of the hospital.
You literally resided there. Might as well change your home address. Yeah. Oh
Right.
my goodness.
So that's when we talk about, you're working a lot of hours. It's not, working overtime. There's no such thing as overtime. It's the regular hours are anywhere from 60, 70, 80 hours a week. So because of that and because of the amount of work there is, the burnout begins early in residency and goes on to attending level where you're responsible for, multiple things and there are a lot of patients and in most places there's limited help,
Right.
right?
Yes. Exactly. I mean, the culture in medicine, I should say, is very much one of like self sacrifice, right? It's also one where the culture could be such that the intensity of the competition in residency leads to the rewarding of those people who are there the earliest, who leave the latest, who are, just feet to the ground. They work harder. And so that's the incentive. And it kind of can lead to this negative cycle, which then leads to burnout. And I think now collectively in medicine, and I'm sure in other industries, we're realizing this is not good.
No, no. I mean, it's not good. And one of the things that's gaining a lot of attention right now is the fact that we're seeing the consequences of it, right? Physician suicide rate is high. I mean, I think it's like 400 people, more than, 1 to 2 physicians commit suicide per day,
Right. I
right?
mean, that's extraordinary. Yeah.
It's something that, that really needs to be addressed early on and that we perpetually need to keep focusing on because, our patients are aging. The work is getting more and more, intense and just, there's a lot of busy work and a lot of paperwork and a lot of computer. We use the electronic medical record and there's more documentation than actual patient care in certain practices. So, how do we deal with all of this and how do we deal with, people who are in other specialties who have a similar case where the burden from work is just, never ceasing? How do you save yourself from getting burnt out? And that's what we
Yeah.
wanted to discuss today.
You mentioned the bureaucratic drag, the electronic record, and all of the different programs that are involved, all of the different, I should say, stakeholders in providing healthcare, and how, as the physician, you're always the one who's responsible for everything. Another consequence of this burnout is that there's a lot of people leaving medicine, right? They're retiring early. There's
Yep.
a large exodus. Physicians who would otherwise work, a full 30 or 40-year career, people are retiring early and shortening their careers. And there's other people who are leaving medicine altogether. And so this is definitely a pressing issue in medicine. And it has led to a lot of different ways, right? Different systems are trying to tackle this issue. I have to say this about, now there's a lot more CME, which is continuous medical education.
Continuing medical education, yeah.
So there's funds that will now incorporate, right? Or pay for you to do something related to burnout prevention.
Yeah, but if you look at a lot of, like, I've seen residents, post about these things. So a resident who's overworked and, is doing a lot of, not even just residents, physicians who are, out and practicing, who are already overburdened with paperwork and, documentation. The CME that's being provided to fight burnout is to go watch a computerized lecture about
Oh,
burnout.
really? I thought it was going to be like, like a vacation, kind of a deal.
I have yet to see that.
Like go to the spa and relax.
I have yet to see that. I've seen here's a webinar on mindfulness,
Oh
right?
God.
Or come
A
in an
webinar.
extra hour in the morning to have a lecture on well-being,
A
right?
lecture. Isn't that the worst way to possibly
Right.
present?
And the way I see it is if you wait for a system that their main benefit is for you to be as productive as possible, they're not going to take time out of their, profitability work time to accommodate you as the individual to say, hey, how do we make you better? Right? How do we make you cope better? And so when it's been left up to them, these are the things that have come up, right? Where you're looking at webinars, reading about mindfulness and things like that. But I think on an individual level, we can look at, I think we'll review the article that Henny is going to help us summarize, is how do you, on a personal level, take control of that? What tools are available to you to prevent you from getting to burnout? And if you do get to burnout, what steps can you take to recover from that and take care of yourself and keep you from potentially getting into a worse burnout condition?
Yeah. So, what can you do as an individual? Obviously, there's a lot that needs to change in the system. At least the conversation is being had. You know what I
Right.
mean? At
Yep.
least it's being given the urgency that it is. But yeah, for sure, there's a lot that you can do on your own. I think for me, probably when I would say I was close to being burned out, I would say probably my last year in residency. It wasn't the hardest year. By then, things have gotten a lot easier in terms of the workflow. But I think I was just so over being a medical resident, you know?
Right.
When you get to that point, you're like, okay, I've learned all I can learn, And I mean, you're teaching at that point, you're
Right.
managing team, you're managing the attending, you're the point person. And, I got tired of that. I got tired of the teaching, which is so funny because now I love teaching. It was too much. It was doing it
Right.
too much.
You feel like you had a lot of responsibility put on you because you were not only responsible for the junior residents you were supervising, but a lot of times as a senior resident, you're also managing your attendings, right?
Oh, 100%. You're managing down and up.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was literally the number of hours per week. I
Mhm.
think it's enjoyable. It would have been enjoyable if it was, in moderation, if it was, based on like regular work hours. But, you get to the end of the week and, I just remember thinking, I just want to be done. I want to go to work. I don't want to train anymore. And I would say that that's the point. And I'm really glad for what I did next. I did not go to work right after I finished training. I actually took, I think it was like 4 or 5 months off. I took quite
Oh,
a bit of
wow.
time off.
That's
Yep,
really
I
nice.
signed a contract while I was a third year resident. And I said, I'm going to start that day and I'm take some time off. And I did. And I remember that first year out of training, I did a lot of traveling, a lot of, kind of retreats and hanging out with friends. And it was definitely a huge improvement in the quality of my life once I was out of residency.
That's really nice. I don't think throughout training, not many people take, like right now, I think more and more people are considering gap years. But
Hmm.
in medical training, they ask you if you took a certain period of time off. I think if it's anything more than 6 months, you have to
Yeah.
explain what you were doing and why you weren't in a job or in a training program. But the fact that you took 4 months to just travel and decompress, that's actually really, really good.
Yeah, I stumbled across, one of the tips in this article that we read. So this article, by the way, that we're referring to, guys, it's in Forbes magazine. It's called Six Tips for Better Work-Life Balance. And one of those is unplugging from work. So like, taking time away from work when work is the source of stress, that can improve, your work-life balance and reduce burnout. So that's what I was doing, even though I didn't know I was doing it then. But when I went back to work, I felt invigorated. I felt it was obvious that I needed a vacation.
Oh,
How
yeah.
about you? Tell me was there a time you were close to burnout or when was that hard?
I think the burnout for me happened when I think I was a fellow. And so I had my sixth child. I was doing my fellowship. We were about to move from Texas to Florida. So we were out of our house and, we were with family because it was the last few months. And at the time, we had this like daycare situation and my husband's work. And I was, the one getting up early in the morning, getting most of the kids ready, dropping them off at daycare, going to work. being the fellow means you're responsible for everything and you're
Mhm.
managing the entire
Mhm.
team and the attendings and the consultants and everything else. And
Wow.
then I was rushing all the way, like we live way outside of the city where my training was. So I would
Mhm.
drive all the way back, pick up the kids, take them home, and it was around Ramadan time.
Oh my goodness.
And my sister was working. I was living with my parents, so I'd bring all the kids. I'd make iftar, feed everybody, feed the kids, put them to bed. And after doing this for about, I don't know, like a month and a half, and like a month was Ramadan, and then like at the end, I think I had like one weekend off for a long time. And my husband said, "Hey, let's go take the kids for ice cream." And we get in
Mhm.
the car, everybody's strapped in, and I am so tired and exhausted. I just like burst out crying,
Aw.
like nonstop. But
The exhausted cry.
the
It's like
exhaust,
different kind of cry.
yeah. And I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't know what's going on with me. And he just
Yeah.
looks at me like, what is wrong with you? And I felt so bad because like the kids got scared and they were like, Mommy, what's wrong? And
Aw.
that was the day that I realized that like I made zero time for self-care. I made zero time for, downtime to recover or recuperate or anything. It was just nonstop going and going and going and going. And it presented in such a dramatic way.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
stopped you in your tracks.
yeah, like they kept asking me like what's wrong? And I could not explain. And all I could say was, I'm just so tired. I'm just so tired. I'm exhausted. And
Mhm.
finally we got ice cream and he took the kids and I took a nap, a long nap, a
Good for
very
you.
long nap. And that was when I had to realize, it was a tough transition. I mean, transitions are always rough, but that was the day, that it hit me that you can't do everything yourself. And that, there are times when you're going to be, super busy and be responsible for a lot of things, but you also have to make sure that once the busy stuff dies down, that you take the time to recover. And that was something that I've never done. I've gone straight from high school to college to residency to fellowship, not taking a single time off.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wonder, do you think you were somewhat of a perfectionist, needing to take care of everything and needing to take care of it well? Do you think that that was the source of that? Because that is on the list. So I'm curious if that's.
Guilty. Yes. Yes. That's one thing I had to let go of
Mhm.
because, like, one of those people that, I don't delegate. Well, I didn't. Now I delegate everything. But
Mhm.
I didn't delegate very well because I always felt like, well, I could do it better myself. Right.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
so, even as mothers, like, I think we tend to do that where we're like, no, I'll do it myself. And even in the workplace, a lot of women do that where, they don't delegate things because they want it done perfectly and to their, specifications.
No
Um,
one can do it better than me. Yeah.
exactly. And that's something that I had to learn to let go.
So letting go of perfectionism.
Yes, I am very guilty of that. I was very guilty.
That's a big one. I think a lot of people are this way. And, the specific article talks about how it's easier to do that when you're young and ambitious, like maybe in high school and you're only managing school and maybe a part time job. But as you get older and responsibilities accumulate, it's hard to keep that up and it can become actually toxic. So
Yeah.
letting go of perfectionism and knowing that things will get done, but not as perfectly as could do them yourself, and like being at peace with that somehow, that
Mm.
can help with burnout. Yeah. So getting down the list of these tips, another major one that I definitely have been utilizing is self-care, and you talked a little bit about that, but caring for yourself
Mhm.
is, and incorporating that into your life can improve your work life integration, and it
Mhm.
can stave off burnout. So under the umbrella of self-care, I mean, there's just so much, but is
Yeah.
there.
I think you're the queen of self care, and I can definitely learn from you.
I really believe in it, I'll tell you. So for self-care, I do a few different things that I think have added tremendously to the quality of my life. One of them is definitely taking regular breaks from work and also from motherhood, like motherhood itself. My friends and I, we made this pact that we're always going to do, we're going to do an annual girls trip. Okay. No children, just us. And it's the type of trip that's geared around self care. So we each kind of pick out, what do I need to get myself relaxed, rejuvenated? And it takes care of the social emotional need of being around, your girlfriends or your best friends.
Hmm.
And then you can add exercise, spirituality, psychological well being. I mean, I advocate and I've recommended people to talk to therapists, when they're going through a period of trial, and think of it as self care instead of,
Right.
I have a problem that I need to fix. Think of it as like, a well being. So, really, anything that for you as an individual
Right.
adds to your well being and rejuvenates you and gives you, and there's just so much that fall under this category, like regular exercise. That's huge for me. When I work out,
Hmm.
I just have, that much more energy. It's amazing. I feel like a different person when I
Yeah, I
when I
mean,
go.
that's exercise physiology. It releases all the endorphins and all the hormones that make you, feel good.
Yes.
So yeah, I believe in exercise. That I can co-sign. But
Yeah.
the whole like children is like kids free thing, I have yet to try that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, you totally should.
I know like the only times I'm without my kids are when I'm traveling for work. And my kids like they have my calendar and we have this big calendar in the kitchen and they know exactly, the days that I'm free and the days that I'm traveling and if I'm not, traveling for something that's explained, they're
Yeah.
like, "Mommy, where are you going?"
Don't you dare leave. But one thing you could, like in that situation, I might do is tack on a day,
Mhm.
either in front of or after your work or your conference or whatever the case may be, where you're doing something for yourself, for
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. So just taking that extra day and tacking it on, or 2 days if you want, or 3 days. I mean, how will they know how long, your engagement needs to be? I mean, you just call it work, but half of it is like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
That, that
relax and
that's definitely something that needs work. Definitely needs a lot of work. But yeah, so self-care is a huge thing and there's so many different things that fall into that. One of the things that I have found very helpful is writing things. Like
Mhm.
so sometimes like if I've gone through especially I think at the end of training where there are a lot of emotional things and whatnot, writing things out either in a diary or through an article or whatnot, I've always found that to be cathartic and therapeutic.
Yeah, journaling can be really big. In fact, I think I read about that in a book called The Miracle Morning. It's a really good book. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. But it talks about carving out time every single day for yourself, and it could be as short as a few minutes, could be an hour long. And obviously, morning is recommended over, other times, just because when you start off the day by taking care of yourself, you're in a better state of mind. For me, that's what I'm working on right now. I've been able to do it more often than I'm not. So that's a challenge that I'm continuously working on. And then exercise. That's hard to do around my kids' schedule, carving out that time all the time. But that is something that I'm also working on. So, yeah, self care, self care. I'm a big believer in self care. So, another tip for improving your work life balance is limit time wasting activities and people.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. This one is pretty self explanatory, isn't it? It's like, I don't know about you, but I feel like those kinds of things kind of fell by the wayside on their own as I went through life. We don't have a TV, we have a Netflix subscription that I barely ever, use. I mean, and then when it comes to time wasting people, because there's such a thing, I think that not that it's a terrible thing, there's terrible people who want to waste your time. It's just there's people who are in a different life, set than you are. And so it's like you're not really spending, it's not productive time, it's not a healing time, it doesn't add to your time. And then somehow, like, I have this unconscious, like, screen that I can that has really developed over the years. And now, boom, 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 I have people in my life I feel like it's really wonderful, productive relationships. And then it's easy to, remove those other people and those other activities out of my life. I think this is one that I'm actually accomplishing. What about you?
Yeah, I think there was something that I had to do when I started residency, and that was get off of social media. And that helped a lot. I think for some people, they have self control, others, it could be a
Mhm.
time sink. So I found it easier to just, take those things out. And, if you're focused on whatever it is you're focused on, whether it's work or family, time wasting people tend to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I hear you. For me, I think like news, I can be a little bit of a news junkie. So I definitely need to, I'll listen to a podcast now, but I don't read anymore as often as I used to, newspapers specifically, online. So I've managed to do that. But yeah, the
Yeah,
people seem to just fall by the wayside, huh? They're like,
yeah, they do.
it's not like they want to spend any time with us either. I mean,
I mean, I don't think I've had any problems with time wasting people. If you're focused on the right things, if you're focused on what it is that you want to accomplish and you have, your eyes set on that goal, then the people who do waste your time tend to stick around for you to like engage. And if you're not engaging consistently,
yeah,
then they move on.
yeah,
So, yeah, that's the
yeah.
one thing that I would say is, stay motivated and don't get distracted. And then, that problem usually takes care of itself. But as far as distractions are concerned, one of the things that I've read before, I don't remember exactly where, is, I think now the phone has like screen time and whatnot, right? You can, tally like, over a week or 2 weeks to see, what it is that you're doing more than anything else that's getting you away from accomplishing whatever it is that you want to accomplish. So for me, I think one of the things that I did with my schedule, I realized we don't have a set, a week on, week off. It's sporadic and you can make your schedule however you want. And I realized that, when I took call any time of the month and I left it up to somebody else just
Mhm,
to, make my schedule, there are days when I'm post call that I'm exhausted for like another 24 to 48 hours.
mhm,
Right. So that
mhm,
24 to 48 hours, I can't get anything else done because I'm still recovering from my 24-hour call. So one of the things that I found was I was like, okay, I'm exhausted. And by the time I'm recovered, I'm going back to work. So
mhm,
I'm not getting anything else done. I'm not like completely 100% here, with the kids because I'm still tired and sleepy. And I tracked that for like, I think I tried it for like 6 months. So
mhm.
I changed my schedule to where I would take all my calls back to back and I would work really, really hard for like a week and a half or two, knowing that I'm going to be busy those times and the days in between that I'm post call and I'm home, I'm exhausted. I don't plan on doing anything else. And then once all that, the chunk of work is done and, I recover my 2 or 3 days, then I have a complete week and a half or 2 weeks where I am completely functional
Mhm.
and I can actually do stuff.
And you're 100% present
I'm
for your kids, for your
100% present with the kids.
family.
We can make plans to go, do their activities and do other things that we plan on doing as a family. And I'm not exhausted because my work schedule isn't so hectic.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's one of the things that, I would recommend to say, what is it about your schedule or about, the other things that you're doing that are making you less effective with your time, less efficient with your time.
Yeah, exactly. So you're getting at if you can take some control, if you have the ability to have some control over your schedule, having your schedule fit your needs rather than being completely dependent on your work schedule
Right.
itself. If
Hmm.
you can manage that, and not everyone can, obviously, but that can
Right.
alleviate some of the stress. For me, it was going part time. That has made a huge difference when I did. And a lot of, women, colleagues of mine are also part time. And some of them are, just a little bit less than full time. Some of them are half of that, and everyone's just kind of figured out what works, in their life and what staves off burnout and leads to longevity. Because if you find that balance and you can do something for many, many years,
Hmm.
that is going to lead to a much better outcome for you and prevent that burnout and that, quitting that
Yep.
happens.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So the last one is start small to build good habits.
Oh,
That's really
yes.
good advice.
That is a really, really good advice.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think with anything, right, whether it's any kind of goal related to weight loss or picking up good habits or dropping bad habits, it's the big, changes are the ones that always seem to fail. And it's the teeny tiny ones that are consistent,
Mhm.
but don't require a lot that actually stick around and can make a difference in your life.
Yeah, there's a concept in performance improvement that is called Kaizen, Kaizen, I believe. And it's a Japanese concept, and it's basically something that was used in the engineering industry or manufacturing industry where they were trying to, improve processes and minimizing complications or faulty equipment or whatnot. That concept, Kaizen, is, what small incremental changes can you make to have a lasting outcome, to have a lasting improvement? And I think it's been, well studied where these tiny, tiny things that you can do, because when you like change is really hard,
Right.
right? Any
For
type of
everyone.
change, if you want to say, oh, I'm going to change my whole lifestyle and I'm going to, like look at losing weight. It's very difficult, right? It's
Hmm.
for a lot of people struggle with it because change is very, very hard. But the concept of Kaizen, what it teaches is small incremental changes, right? Do
Yep.
one thing at a time. Once you get that one small thing consistent and you can do it frequently enough, then you can continue, improving on that. I think there was a TED talk that I saw a while ago where a guy was doing, and it was all based on, small changes. And he kept doing all these things to get into like the Guinness Book of World Records, where I think he knit something like a huge blanket just to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. And he just kept doing it, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And he kept, making multiple records. But that's a proven thing where, it's small incremental changes, right? Say, what were we talking about here? You want to spend a little bit more time with your kids, right? And you
Hmm.
figure out, one of the things that's keeping you busy is because, you're having to multitask and do a lot of things, such as, groceries or cleaning the house or whatever it is. If you can
Hmm.
delegate one thing, right? One thing, take it off your plate and say, can I delegate it to either somebody else or pay somebody else to do it and see how that helps you, right?
Hmm.
Or divide it up. Or, what tiny change can you make? Because you don't have to overhaul your whole lifestyle. What
Hmm.
one change can you make? Figure that out. What is one thing that you can change? Make that change and then see the result of it.
Yeah. Which will be tiny but powerful because it's consistent.
It's consistent. Yep.
It doesn't need a lot. That is really good advice. Okay, I think that's the list. 6 tips for better work life balance. I feel like it's a work in process, like it's going to evolve over your life because life will change as you go through the different phases, right? And so it's a continuous process of development, trying to attain that integration and what's right for you.
And that's another concept. And Kaizen kind of falls into that is the continuous improvement, right?
Hmm.
Continuous improvement process where, it's the journey, it's not the destination. There's
Hmm.
always going to be something that you can improve on. There's always going to be, something that comes up, another complication or another, glitch that you can't foresee right now. And then it's the process of learning what can I improve? How can I make this better? How can I, keep getting better and keep tweaking things? That's the process that's important for long-term progression to having that balance of having that integration of work and life.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So to recap all the advice that we've
Yeah.
given, so let go of perfection,
Hmm.
right? It's better to get, something done instead of waiting, forever to achieve perfection.
The second one is unplug from work.
Take time to yourself to recover from work.
Self care and the huge umbrella of that, which includes exercise, spirituality, psychological self care, social emotional self care, lots of other things.
And
Another
then
one was limit time wasting activities and people, and then delegate and outsource
yep,
activities. And last but not least is start small to build good habits. And there you have it.
exactly. On to a more balanced or integrated work and life.
Yes, may we all achieve it. Good to
Inshallah.
talk to you, Kali.
You too. And for our listeners, If you guys have any feedback on this, or, you have ideas on what works for you, please join us on our Facebook group for further discussion on how we can all achieve a better work-life balance.
And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, guys.
Thank you, and assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum.
Thank you for tuning into the Professional Muslim Women podcast, the place for Muslim women to inspire and be inspired.
Please join us on our Facebook group, Professional Muslim Women, to continue the conversation and connect with Muslim women like you. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and drop us a like or a review.
We look forward to hearing from you soon.